You're watching the Dakota Drive on KFYR Plus with sports director Luke Gamble. Sponsored by Trusted Tire and Auto.
Welcome into the Dakota Drive on this Monday afternoon. Welcome into the new year. Man, hard to believe. 2026. This has been a crazy year. Crazy that we are turning the calendar already. We didn't have a show last week. I was off spending time with family and stuff like that, but couldn't be more excited for today's show as we jump straight into things and get ready for the new year. And the new year is going to be big for us here at KFYR and on NBC. We've got the Winter Olympics coming up. We've got the NBA All-Star Game coming up. Gosh, I should have thought about this before I started rattling it off. What's the other big thing we have going on? NBA All-Star Game, the Olympics. The Olympics is obviously the big one. Got to be in Italy this year, and it's cool that we have a local connection to the Olympics this year. And I just want to jump straight into it because I'm so excited about it. But Britta Curl-Salemme, Salemme is her married name now, but everyone in Bismarck knows her as Britta Curl, obviously, and in North Dakota. And she got selected to the Olympic roster this past week. I believe that was Friday morning that it came out, and she found out a couple of days prior to that, so she had some time to sit on it and think about it a little bit with her family. In terms of just being able to enjoy the moment after getting the call that she made the Olympic team. But I think it's so cool that we have a personal connection there to the Olympics this year. And I think it's a cool opportunity for North Dakota to be displayed on a national and international stage. We've seen what she's done on the national stage, but she's the first person from North Dakota in 8 years to compete in the Olympics, summer or winter Olympics. The last people to do it were the Lamoureux twins in 2018. And obviously, Britta's got some big shoes to follow in there with the Lamoureux twins. I mean, in 2018, they win the gold medal on this same women's Olympic hockey team. Jocelyn scored a sudden death goal to win the gold medal, and Monique sent it to overtime, I believe, tied the game at the end of regulation to end up going on and win a gold medal. And then the U.S. didn't win a gold medal in 2022. So for those to be the last people to be in the Olympics is pretty cool because those are people that she's looked up to. And we're gonna play an interview. I had a chance to catch up with Britta this morning, and we're gonna play that interview. She's in the midst of her season, her professional women's hockey league season with the Minnesota Frost, and they just got a chance to finish off a long road trip, and now they have a week off until Sunday. Talked a little bit about what the professional scene looks like right now. She gets ready to jump into the Olympics and that kind of thing. So a lot of good stuff that we talked about, but it was really great catching up with her this morning. And then after that, we're going to have her head high school hockey coach, Tim Meyer, come on and talk to us a little bit about his perspective on Britta and just, when he remembers learning about her and what their past has been like, coaching and playing together and that kind of thing. So excited to hear Tim's perspective. And we'll dive into the Century Girls hockey season as well because they've been off to a fantastic start. And they have a huge game coming up this week here in town that I'm excited to talk to them about, the rivalry against Legacy Bismarck. The two Bismarck programs meeting up, both tied for second in the state standings coming into this week, and we'll see what it looks like at the end of this week after those two face off. And then at the end of the afternoon, we're going to have Wayne Casey, the new head coach for the Forebears, the basketball league basketball team. Forebears Roar, they're going to be coming into Newtown here in the next couple of months. Hard to believe we're just a couple of months away from that after feels like it was just yesterday that we were talking about them getting started. But Wayne Casey's going to be the new head coach there. He has experience around the basketball league with a couple of teams. And so I'm excited to talk to him about building something from the ground up and kind of his idea of getting into this now. But first off, we're going to talk about Britta Curl, talk with Britta Curl about her experience getting that first call to find out that she was an Olympian, a call that she's waited for a long time. She got really close in 2022. She was on the reserve roster and got the call as somebody else got injured. And so it was like, hey, you're going to the Olympics. But part of that was you had to get COVID tested before you went over to Beijing, I believe it was, and she tested positive for COVID before she could even get on the plane to travel over there. She ended up not being able to compete in the Olympics. So that was kind of a whirlwind, and we touched on that as well. But with that being said, here's our interview with Britta Curl from earlier this morning. She talks about being named a U.S.
First
Olympian.
off, just take me through what where you were at. I know you get the phone call and that kind of thing. Where were you at, and what was that moment like for you?
Yeah, I was in Toronto, just at the hotel. We had a game the next day, I think, but just had a set time. I knew that they would be calling me, so I answered Katie Million's FaceTime call, and she, started to say like, super excited to tell you you've made the roster, and then I don't even think I heard the rest.
So it's I mean, obviously you know a couple days before the public announcement. So what was that like? I mean, I assume that you shared the news with your family and stuff in that brief time frame. Was that kind of cool to just kind of have the news to yourself for a couple of days before your phone starts blowing up and everything?
Yeah, it was awesome. I called my husband and my parents first and foremost, just the people that have, been with me through a lot of the tough times and the good times. So just to share with them the good news. I know they were all anxiously awaiting that call, but yeah, and then obviously like being able to share with a lot of my teammates here in Minnesota too, who also got good calls. So that was really fun.
Yeah. Um, I mean, obviously, this is when we talked about it this summer or whatever. This is something that like it's coming at the end of the year. It's kind of on the calendar, and you're doing all the training and stuff, and the rivalry series and all that. How much anticipation has there been just kind of leading up to this, knowing that it was coming at the end of the year, or I guess turn of the calendar into the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think, as like the Olympics get closer, just the tension rises, and we have had a ton of camps every month starting since August. So we've been, you know, going hard. We've been training a lot, and there's been a lot of pressure, but also just, I don't know. It's I love those types of environments. I think it's fun to be in those challenging situations. So to kind of be on the other side of that hurdle is really cool. Just look on how hard we've worked for it and what we've all done.
Yeah, I know we talk about this too, but obviously with the 2022 experiment or whatever you want to call it, you're right there on the edge of getting to go. So after going through all of those circumstances of getting so close to going to Beijing and it not happening, is it, fulfilling to get this opportunity now and know like, hey, I earned it, I made the roster and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it just makes it so much sweeter knowing the bitter taste of last time, and um, I vividly remember, like, after that experience, looking ahead and saying, like, "Okay, Milan, like, that's the next shot, so if I wanna do this again, like, it's gonna be 4 years of continuing to work hard and, letting this roll off my shoulders and get better from it." So it's just cool to look back and see how much I've grown since then.
Absolutely. For women's hockey, I mean, up until recently, like there wasn't even a professional thing to obtain for, a professional league to obtain for. So I know you've talked about how like the Olympics is kind of um, what women's hockey players always shot for. I guess for you, like, do you remember a time when that first was like a goal as a little kid or in middle school or high school or whatever where it was like, oh, I'd love to play in the Olympics, no matter how out of reach it may have seemed at the time? Like, do you vividly have a memory of that?
Yeah, I think I grew up, like, idolizing and following the Lamoureux twins, when they played for UND, and then obviously they were a part of many years of Team USA, and just, I don't know, as a girl, like, getting to learn about these women hockey players, Hillary Knight, Brianna Decker. I got to go to one of the rivalry series games in Grand Forks. I think maybe I was in 8th grade, so, like, getting to see that in front of me, I was like, there's something about this, like, I wanna reach for and try to get to, and then just I don't know how it happened between then and now, but then now that it's reality, I'm like, it's so cool.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you about those two, that with the Lamoureux twins and having some two people who are, you know, geographically close to you and that you've seen for your whole life. I mean, what's that been like, and to see them have that success at the Olympic level, to have someone that you're almost chasing the same thing that they had an
Mhm.
opportunity to do. What's that been like for you personally?
It's been so cool. I mean, they were like my heroes when I was little, and they've done so much just for the sport in general and for female hockey players. Like they were definitely two huge people that helped this league get started in the first place, this professional league. So I'm just super grateful for them. I had, Jocelyn reached out to me the other day, just texted me congrats. So just knowing that like I am able to meet them, I played at camps with them, and I just feel very grateful that I have their respect and them behind me, and I've been able to follow in their footsteps.
Yeah. You mentioned having so many players on the Frost that are obviously going. And then I know there's so many, you know, former Badgers players that are going too. So just what is that like for you to know that you've gotten to play with so many high level players and now you get to experience it at another new level? I mean, you know, I was watching the Today Show when Layla was on there the other day and stuff like that. I mean, how cool is that to know that you've gotten to experience that rise with all of these women?
Yeah, I think just as the years go on and I get to play more and more, I think I realize how like the best part of what I get to do is the people around me, and I've gotten to meet so many amazing people and make connections, and this is kind of just the culmination of that, getting to play with so many unbelievable hockey players, but also people that I'll have relationships with for the rest of my life. So it's pretty special to think about that too.
Yeah. Well, I want to touch on the frost a little bit. I mean, I know this is kind of, I mean, I don't know. Is it weird for you that you're in the middle of your professional season and then you're like, okay, we're going to take a break from this, but we're still going to be playing hockey at, you know, maybe even a higher level,
Mhm.
or, you know, a different level. What is that like as you try to prepare for that? Or do you feel like it's not that much different? It's just going to play hockey somewhere else?
No, it's definitely a unique situation. I think it's both like a challenge, obviously, with it's a long season and having to stay at a high level and a super high intensity for that long. That's difficult, but I also am lucky that I love the game and I love the people that I do it with. So for me, it's just more fun that I get to do. I get to go to a new country, see a new place, play in the Olympics. Like I'll take a break from whatever to do that.
So you've never been to Italy?
No,
No.
no,
You played hockey a lot of places, but you've never been to Italy. That's pretty
I've
cool.
not. I know.
Yeah. What just talking about the season that you've had so far, obviously it's been really successful for you on an individual basis. I mean, I know last year coming off of a championship, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure and a lot of hype and things like that where, you know, as a team you're trying to repeat that success. For you individually though, do you feel like you've kind of been able to sustain or even take another step in terms of your level of play this season?
Yeah, I've been just super happy with how confident I've been playing, and I think it's a product of knowing that the people in my room and our coaches and the staff, like they trust me and they want me there, and um, just feeling that support behind me, knowing that I have great players around me, so I don't need to worry about points or results. I just need to go out there and play my game, and I've done a lot of things to get better over the last year or two, so I think it's showing itself.
You know, you don't need to worry about points, but you've obviously been pretty successful at that. Is there something that's led to that where you feel like you've found more opportunities to score or be involved in scoring? Whether it's just this season or maybe over the course of the last couple of seasons that you feel like you've whether it's something you've developed your game or you're changing where you're at on the ice or anything like that that you feel like has led to more opportunities in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think just like my style of play, it's going to lead to opportunities. I try to, be involved in the scoring area, get to the net. I'm just that type of player. Like I want to get involved in front of the net, and good things will happen. I think half my points have come off just like pucks bouncing off me or being in corners and, just playing hard nose like forecheck hockey. And sometimes you get lucky and a puck bounces off you and you have Kendall Coyne and Kelly Panic out there with you. Like you're bound to get some points. So it's a little bit of luck, a little bit of hard work, and just being in the right places.
Yeah. Um, whenever you talk about getting a chance to go to a new country and experience the Olympics and so much newness. I mean, I know you still have hockey to play between now and then. How do you balance all that? I know you're used to balancing a lot at one time, but how do you balance all that as you know, try to mentally prepare yourself for what's to come in the next month and a half?
Yeah, I think for me right now, my focus is just kind of the day in front of me. So, I obviously want to do everything I can before the break to, get some points on the board for Minnesota. And I think that'll only help me when I go to Italy, just being in the best mental state I can be and focusing on the present. Because when I get there, then I'll just switch gears. And I mean, it's the same game, right?
Yeah. When will you go? I assume you guys travel as a team and that kind of thing. So what does that look like in
Yeah.
terms of how much lead time you get on the front end to get there and adjust?
I think we fly out on like January 29th.
Yeah.
So honestly, I haven't really looked at the schedule. I'm gonna show up on the plane and let the rest happen.
Right. Just last couple of things. I mean, one is your family, is any of your family gonna make the trip for at least some of it or all of it, or what is that gonna look like?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm gonna have like my husband's going for most of the tournament. My parents, are taking a bunch of time off and making sacrifices to get over there. Just it's kind of a once in a lifetime thing. So I even think my siblings are gonna be able to make it. Maybe not Brenna, but gonna have a lot of support over there.
Yeah, she's in the middle of her own hockey
Yeah,
season,
she's
so
got
she's
other things to worry
got
about.
plenty to worry about. Yeah. Um, just I mean, you obviously talked about the Lamoureux twins, and we've talked about this before, but as you are in this role where little girls are looking up to you, and we saw it so much when you were back home this summer and that kind of thing. I mean, one, just how fulfilling is that, and two, how do you feel like you can embrace that, on another level as you embark on this kind of new opportunity?
Yeah, I think this is just another um, kind of accolade to add to my collection, which I've just been blown away with, the things I've been able to do, but it just gives me a platform to be able to like do things that I love and get to meet people and hopefully, inspire some young hockey players or athletes or whoever it is. Just I don't know. It's cool to give back. I think that's kind of what it's about. And I'm, planning on coming back to Bismarck and doing another camp hopefully. So just I don't know, stay involved in the community and be around.
All right, last thing I promise. You mentioned the accolades that you've gotten, and you've played on really good teams with really good players. What would it mean to add a gold medal to the state championships and the national championships and the international championships? What would it mean to add maybe the only one that's really missing from the trophy case?
Yeah, I mean, the trophies are awesome. Obviously, like I love that I've been able to do so much and a gold medal would be unbelievable, dream come true. I've always been someone who tries not to focus on results and it's more about the process for me and doing my best and being happy with that. But hey, if there's a gold medal at the end, I'm not going to complain.
All right. Well, I appreciate it so much. I know you're busy, so I appreciate you taking some time today.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All
Good
right.
to
Best
talk
of
to you.
luck, safe
Thanks.
travels, and good luck over there.
Thanks, Luke. See ya.
All right, that was Britta Curl-Salemme as she gets set to represent Bismarck, represent the U.S., represent all of North Dakota in the U.S. For the U.S. women's national hockey team here in a matter of less than a month. No, right at a month. They'll play their first game on February 5th, which is pretty exciting to think about, that we're that close to this happening and getting a chance to see that's come to fruition for her as she's waited so long for that to happen. So nobody better to talk about this with than Britta's former head coach, Tim Meyer. And I think it's pretty cool to see this come kind of full circle from my perspective. But Tim, I'm sure for you that this is really cool as well. I mean, I know that this kind of seems like it's been a long time coming, but when you get the news that this is official, what was kind of your reaction to this?
Yeah, obviously very exciting. One of those where, 4 years ago, we were all hoping and praying that we were going to see her in that USA jersey, and a little bit of unfortunate circumstances there, but couldn't be prouder to be able to watch her this year, and getting really excited for February now.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was just saying. It's right at a month from today. They'll be playing their first game or already have their first game. So that's crazy to think about. But for you, I want to go back a little bit. So when did you first hear about Britta from a hockey perspective, or did you have a relationship with her family prior to her playing for the Blizzard, or what was the background there?
Yeah, I was an assistant coach at Century for the boys team, and so I coached her older brother Byrne, and so
All right.
obviously knew the Curl family from way back then. And then my last year of being an assistant coach with the boys was Britta's 8th grade year with the Blizzard, and then I became the head coach the following year. And so, obviously knew of Britta, had seen her around the rink a whole bunch, but then to have that opportunity to be able to coach her for 4 years was obviously very special.
Yeah. Well, you obviously getting to start out with her still at a relatively young age as she got into the high school level. Was there a point in time where it clicked? Like this girl is kind of on another level in terms of the way she plays hockey, or when was that? Is that something that you recognized right away, or something that kind of took time for you to recognize?
No, I think you could see some of the intangibles in her game right away. Just her compete level at practice, just in the first few days of being on the ice together and being able to see the way that she prepared herself and how she compete. You could tell that she had a lot of potential. I would say when it really started to become clear that she could compete on more of a regional, even a nationwide basis, was probably when we started going to some tournaments in Minnesota, and we were playing against some pretty high level competition while we were out there. And you could see in her game how she didn't just fit in, but she was right there at the top with that group. So that was when it kind of became a little bit evident to us that Division 1 wasn't such a lofty goal. It was more a matter of where did she want to go, and then what kinds of progress was she going to continue to make as she made those jumps up.
Yeah. Um, eh, Obviously, you guys went on a crazy tear there where you had so much success and winning championships, and Britta even mentioned today, like, the championships are great, but there's so much more to it. I mean, what did she provide on those teams that really stood out to you that maybe people don't understand at the highest level, or don't remember about what she provided in terms of not just on the ice but off the ice?
Yeah, the character part of it, I would say, was one of the biggest. She had that leadership quality where she didn't necessarily tell other people what to do, but it was pretty evident that the kids that were around her, all of their levels of their game had to rise to the occasion. Because it wasn't just when we were playing against opponents. Our kids had to be better at practice too. Every time that you were on the ice against her, you knew that it was going to be a battle. Your teammates, but at the same time in practice, your competitors. And she had that versatility too, that if you wanted to go out there and play rough, you could go out there and play rough. If you wanted to go out there and play a skilled game, she could deliver that. And so I think that versatility and that character is what kind of sets her apart from a lot of her competitors.
Whenever it got to the stages of what you were talking about, like, okay, we know that she can compete not just on a regional level but even bigger level. I'm not super familiar with how recruiting works in hockey and in girls hockey, but I assume that at some point you're having a conversation with Mark Johnson and the University of Wisconsin women's hockey coach, or somebody on the Wisconsin women's hockey staff. What was that like for you as it got to that stage, and these teams are calling to want to talk to her or talk to you to get more information about her? What was that like for you?
Yeah, the recruiting has changed over the years. Some of the requirements back then were that the coaches would contact me, and then I would contact Britta, and then Britta would contact the
Right.
college coach. So things have kind of evolved a little bit differently now. But in all honesty, Wisconsin was one of the teams that I never talked to personally. Kind of interesting to me, but that was Britta. Britta wanted that, and Britta pursued that, and Britta she did what she needed to do to get there. I talked to plenty of college coaches during her time. I had a lot that maybe in some ways were a little bit too pushy in their approach because they wanted those commitments. They wanted to be able to check that box and start filling up their roster. But Britta was the one who went out of her way to get onto that Wisconsin team and to earn her time there. So all the credit in that one goes to her.
Yeah. How many have you been to whenever she was playing at Wisconsin? Did you go to any Badger games?
Unfortunately, with my schedule, no, I never have made it to watch any of my former players play at the collegiate level. I've been stuck having to do it on the television or on the
Yeah.
internet or something. It's one of those regrets, but based upon, what I have to do as a coach and then things that I
Right.
have just going on outside of just century hockey, it's just never worked out. Whenever they were the closest to us and it made sense for me able to go, I already had commitments. And so it is one of those regrets that I do have, but hopeful that one of these times it's going to work out where I can make it down to the cities and make it to one of the PWHL games still.
Yeah. Super cool to see that, she's gone from Wisconsin to now the WHL and made a huge impact there too. As you watch on TV and you've watched her play at Wisconsin and now watching her play at the professional level, I asked her a little bit, right now she's at the top of the league in points scored. She's tied at the top of the league in points scored for the season. And so I asked her, what do you feel like you've done to put yourself in a position to be more involved to score points? Or is there something that's changed with your game? From you as a coach's perspective, have you seen her do things differently to put herself in a position to be more involved to score points more often?
One of the things that I think that made and continues to make Britta stand out is she plays with so much grit. I kind of equate it and tell our hockey players that, we want to be playing game 7 every single day. We want that every approach to every game this is game 7 in the Stanley Cup finals. And, you see a very different change at the NHL level when they're playing for those big game moments. And if we treat every game as a big game and we treat every moment as a big moment, I think that's what Britta does. She's just hard to play against. She's willing to block shots. She defends well. You mentioned she's at the top of, the point leaders. I'd be willing to bet that the penalty minutes are probably up there too. So, you can see that she's definitely willing to go out there and play hard. She's willing to battle and compete for her teammates. And as a coach, you can't ask anymore. I mean, you got kids that kind of fit into roles of being maybe your most skilled hockey players or your most defensive hockey players, but I would be willing to bet you could put her in any situation you want, and you're going to be confident that she has the ability to be able to accomplish that goal.
You've obviously she's the biggest name that you've coached in terms of girls hockey players, but you've had several players go play at the college level and that kind of thing. I mean, just thinking about Avery Matt that was on your team last year that's gone and is playing college and Brenna and people like that. How much of those players do you point to, on a day-to-day basis for your current roster whenever you talk about like, hey, this is something you can really aspire to be or something that you can look at as a role model in your game?
Yeah, I think that you obviously see the Britta Curl effect around here. With her sister and with Avery and them being able to grow up and I think that what they benefited the most from was seeing what she did away from the rink, to see the amount of preparation that it takes, that if you really do want to achieve those goals, you got to be willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. You're going to have to make some sacrifices that, you might have to miss some of the social events that your friends are going to. You might have to, skip out on going to that Bobcat game because you have training that needs to get done. And so I think that that's kind of the standard that Britta set around her. And when she was a player for the Blizzard, everybody else rose to that occasion. And then all these younger generations of girls that have watched her and are still following her, I think that that's probably the biggest message that I would say to them is you guys didn't get to see a lot of what Britta did off of the ice, but I can tell you right now that it was countless hours of her out there working her butt off to get to where she is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to talk a little bit about your team this year, and just talking about your roster this year. There's so many young girls that have made such a huge impact from freshman and sophomore level. Was that something that you expected, having such a huge impact from freshman and sophomore players, and what's that been like as you go throughout a season and experience growing pains and the benefit of having young players on your roster?
Yeah, we were kind of able to track the first few years and what it would look like when we had a Century team and a Legacy Bismarck team. Maybe exceeded even my own expectations as far as how competitive we would be able to be in the first few years. But we understood our first year we were going to have a lot of underclassmen that were moving up to fill up the numbers situation that we had. And that's our current senior group. And what they might be lacking as far as points and goals and assists is they bring that leadership. They bring that quality of what do we expect in our locker room? What do we expect on our bus trips? And, you couldn't ask more of those girls of accepting and bringing in these freshmen, allowing them to just focus on hockey. And, so far, well, knock on wood here, but we've had a very drama-free year, and it's a credit to those upperclassmen that are supporting and are mentoring our incoming freshman and sophomore group and allowing those kids to feel comfortable and be a part of the team.
Well, you mentioned the charting the process of what the separation looked like going from the Bismarck Blizzard to two Bismarck teams. And I wanted to ask you about that. Now that this is year 4, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So now that we're into year 4 and you look back at what the last 3 years have been like and this season has been like, I mean, how much do you think it's changed the sport in our state just having the Bismarck Blizzard divided? I mean, how much has it changed for things here locally and just across North Dakota?
Obviously there was some hesitation in the beginning, and I think most of that was based upon establishing something that would have longevity and making sure that when we did have the split, that those two teams were going to be successful long term, and not necessarily just talking about success as far as wins and losses, but just not losing kids to other programs, not losing too many kids so that the numbers situation would be troubling. And so, I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised with where Bismarck is right now, having two programs. And I think that we're kind of setting a standard for the rest of the state that, we are providing those opportunities for these girls. And ultimately, it's up to the girls to do what they want with those opportunities. But so far, very impressed with where we are as a town. And if you look across the state right now, the parity is pretty crazy. Top to bottom, you're seeing very close, tight games. And looking at the standings, I think that the state tournament is probably going to be one of the most exciting state tournaments that we've ever had in girls hockey.
Well, just talking about where the two Bismarck teams are at right now, I mean, you're both tied for second in the standings as you go into this week, and obviously it's going to be a big week because you play them on Thursday. So when you look at what the competition has looked like now that you guys have had a few years of playing against each other, what added effect does it have that you do have a crosstown opponent? I mean, I know you've had Mandan, but that you have another team in town that you can look forward to playing against. Like, hey, we got to circle the Legacy Bismarck game because that's, we know that's going to be a big one. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. And then in a week like this, you find yourself tied in the standings in second place and saying, hey, this means a lot, right now at this point in the season.
Yeah, it does. It's one of those where, I have the opportunity to work with a lot of the Legacy Bismarck girls throughout the summer months too. And then a lot of our girls skate and play together throughout the summers. And so it's a lot of fun to know so many more kids in town and then to be able to compete against them a couple of times a year. And so, they obviously last year they had a phenomenal state tournament and came across with the win. The year before that, we fell just one game short. And so I don't think that there was a lot of people around the state that would have expected that. But I think that this crosstown rivalry is a big part of it. It's one of those where even if we're not playing against each other, you can't help but be watching the other team and kind of, using them as a little bit of a measuring stick. And so, there was a lot of apprehension in the beginning about two teams and were we going to be successful? And I think that we've kind of broken the mold on what's possible in girls hockey. And so, excited for Thursday. Obviously, it's going to be an emotional game, but I think the first team that just calms down and realizes we're just playing hockey have some fun. And, that'll be the team that probably comes out, plays a little bit looser, and is able to just settle in.
Well, you guys went on a run there where you won 5 or 6 straight, then you lost a couple. You get a win this past week to round it out, and then on the other side, Legacy Bismarck's gone on their win streak of 5 or 6 in a row. So, but just looking at your schedule, you've had a lot of wins that are, in the wins, it's 6, 7, 8 points, right? And then the losses have been 3-1, 3-0, 3-2. Kind of the same story. So how do you make sure you come out on the right end of things on Thursday night?
I think that's a patience process. Obviously everybody thinks you want to go out and you want to get a lead and you want to hold that lead and maintain it. But kind of like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of good goaltending. There's a lot of parity throughout the league. Teams defend very well nowadays. And so you need to stay patient. You need to stick with the process that, for us, we want to play a 200-foot game. We want to be hard to play against. But, sometimes when you break the back of an opponent and you get, 6 goals, it's hard to learn very much from that. And so being in a couple of these tight games more recently has given us a different perspective and an understanding that, we're going to have to find ways to score goals when it's not coming easy. And then we're going to have to tighten up defensively in those 1-goal games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see it on Thursday night. Excited to see what the rest of the season holds as well. But I appreciate you coming on and talking to us about Britta and talking to us about your team a little bit this year. Thanks so much, Tim.
Yep. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right, Tim Meyer, the head coach of Century Girls Hockey. Century with a big one on Thursday night as they take on Legacy Bismarck in a game between two teams tied for second in the standings right now, in the state standings. Fargo North-South, that team that's ahead of both of them right now. But it's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be an exciting opportunity to see two really good teams go against each other. And really cool to hear Tim's take on Britta's career and what it's looked like over the course of the last several years, and from the beginning of him learning about her and that kind of thing. So that's awesome perspective to be able to hear, especially right now as she reaches this new level of being able to go and play in the Olympics. So exciting stuff there. We've got one more guest that's going to join us here in just a little bit. Wayne Casey, the new head coach of the Four Bears Roar. The Four Bears Roar going to be competing in Newtown here beginning in March. They are part of the basketball league. It's a professional basketball league that has been going on for quite a while now. And Wayne Casey has coached at a couple of places in the basketball league, the TBL, and now he's getting a chance to come up here and start something brand new with the Four Bears Roar in Newtown and see what it's like to build a team from the ground up. They've signed several players already, doing training camp in Vegas and stuff like that, and have started to really put a roster in place. And so now they're looking to take that step into getting a chance to finally play games after talking about it for a little while. Like I said, it seems like just yesterday that we learned that this team was going to be coming to North Dakota. Now they're getting a chance to tip off their season here soon in the next month and a half or so. So excited to have Wayne join the show here shortly. We'll get to him in just a few minutes, but just a couple of news and notes kind of things that I wanted to touch on. Here locally, Minot State soccer coach Chris Logan stepped down today after one season. He went 9-5-5 with the Beavers, so had some success there at Minot State. They were pretty competitive in the NSIC. He previously coached at the University of North Dakota, and after he was let go at the University of North Dakota, he came to Minot State for a season, and now the Beavers will be looking for a new head soccer coach. Once again, a process that they just went through about a year ago this time. Chris was hired last February, so Minot State going to be going through that process once again. This is that time of year where we've got coaching changes from the fall sports and things are shifting, and so Minot State will be starting from scratch there once again, but obviously they have a lot of good pieces in place. They've got a lot of good local players on their team, and they have a good foundation going, 5 games above 500 last season and getting a chance to build on that this year. obviously the big one tonight, going to be the FCS championship game. Man, the NFL was fun last night. Gosh, I just got sidetracked thinking about the D3 championship last night happening with University of Wisconsin River Falls winning a national championship at the D3 level, their first championship ever. They hadn't been to the playoffs in more than 20 years, and then they make it to the playoffs and they make a run at the national championship. What a scene that was. But tonight, it's going to be a big one in the FCS title game in Nashville. I mean, it's going to be, can Illinois State complete the Cinderella season, or is it a continuous reign of the Montana Dakota schools that have put together such a good stretch over the past several years. So excited to see what that looks like. I'm excited to see what the crowd looks like. I've been seeing a lot of videos and pictures and stuff from Nashville where fans have been on Broadway. And obviously everyone's enjoying themselves, but it looks like there's a ton of fans that are in attendance, especially when you talk about a team like Illinois State that's made such a great run. I think that it excites people and wants them, makes them want to get down there to kind of see the setting and everything. And so it'll be cool to see what it looks like in Vanderbilt Stadium tonight as those two teams play for a national title, but it's the first time that we've ever seen the national title be played in this setting. And I think it could be, set the premise for what the future of the FCS national title game looks like in terms of if it's going to, continue to stay there or if it's going to move back to Frisco once the stadium in Frisco gets completed with its renovations. So I think Nashville is the perfect place to have something like this, but obviously Frisco has been great as well, and so now we'll get a chance to see tonight what it looks like after we've talked for over a year about what it was going to look like going down to Nashville. We get a chance to finally see the outcome of it, but the game itself should be electric. I'm pumped to watch that game and see if Illinois State can complete the Cinderella run after knocking off North Dakota State, obviously, in the second rounds in Fargo earlier in the playoffs. And I think the storylines are great there, and I think it's going to be an exciting matchup. Over the course of the weekend, Bo Brungard, the quarterback from Youngstown State, he wins the Walter Payton Award over the course of the weekend. Of course, Cole Payton was a finalist for that award as well here from North Dakota State, but it's Bo Brungard that takes it home, and a well-deserved winner, in my opinion. Seeing him play, just fantastic play from him throughout the season. Obviously, he gave North Dakota State a great run. And so, cool to see a guy like that get a chance to put his name on an award like that for his team and for his program. That's really cool for the Youngstown State program and obviously for that award itself and in terms of what it means to everyone around the FCS and the guys that compete in the FCS. But North Dakota State, obviously right now, we're in the midst of the transfer portal. The transfer portal opened on January 2nd. You've got a 2-week window to sign any players that you're going to sign for the year. And so it's a short window where a lot of things are happening. Coaches are recruiting at the high school level, but they're having to worry about the transfer portal at the same time. And you're seeing tons and tons of players. I saw a stat that said 35% of FBS players are in the transfer portal right now. So that's a ton of players. Then you add in the fact that there's FCS players in the transfer portal that are trying to get into the FBS level. And then you've got players in the FBS that are going to end up dropping down and playing at the FCS level. So there's a whole lot of guys looking for new homes, which makes it an incredibly busy time of year. UND and NDSU have both had players hit the portal and decide that they're going to leave. Still not a ton of guys that we know where they're going to go yet, but obviously plenty of time. We're just 3 days into this in terms of when the transfer portal window opened. So still 10 or 11 days until that closes. So plenty of time to find out about that. But also exciting to see the new guys that North Dakota State's going to bring in. On the flip side of things, we were just talking about Vanderbilt. That's where the FCS national title game is going to be. Bo Johnson, the offensive lineman from NDSU announced today that he's transferring down to Vanderbilt. So he's making the jump to the SEC level after being super successful with the Bison. Bo Johnson going to take his talents to not only the Power Four, but to the SEC. And obviously, Vanderbilt's been doing some great things there. So it'll be interesting to see him play at that level. Eli Ozick, the kicker from NDSU, he announced his intentions over the weekend to transfer to the University of Iowa. Again, going to play at the Power 4 level, going to be playing in the Big Ten. And then the edge rusher, Toby Anini from NDSU, transferring to Colorado. And I believe it's his brother is transferring to NDSU. So they're kind of swapping spaces there. And that'll create some interesting storylines, obviously, but it'll be cool to see him get a chance to play. It'll be interesting to see all these guys play at the next level. You talk about guys that have been playing at the next level that transferred last year or previous seasons. Marty Brown making an impact at the CFP playoff for the University of Miami as a running back. That's been super cool to see because, it's not just going and sitting on a roster, but, making an impact and doing it at the highest level possible in terms of being in the college football playoff and, scoring points. So that's really cool to see and really exciting to see. I mean, obviously, that in this day and age, you're not going to be able to hang on to every single player that you get. Every single guy's not going to be there for 4 years or 5 years or however long at this rate. A lot of these guys are going to come play for a year or two for NDSU, and then they're going to try to go make some money. And with the money that's being put out right now, it's kind of hard to blame them because you don't ever know if you're going to be in that small percentage that's going to make the jump, be able to make the jump to the professional league and be able to play in the NFL. So a lot of these guys are trying to capitalize on the time that they have and be able to take advantage of that by making a little bit of money right now. And so it's kind of hard to blame them when people are putting as much money on the line as they are. It's hard to ignore that. So we'll see how these guys do as they go to the next level. Again, Bo Johnson going to be going to play at Vanderbilt on the offensive line. Eli Ozick going to play kicker at Iowa. And the edge rusher, Toby Anini, going to be transferring to Colorado to play for Deion Sanders and his crew. So excited to see how NDSU handles the transfer portal on the other side in terms of guys that are going to be coming in and, who they're going to bring in, what that's going to look like, and how they replace guys that are outgoing right now. It's going to be very important that, obviously for NDSU, they're always going to capitalize on trying to get local players and trying to get players from around here that can contribute in a big way. And obviously they've had such success with redshirting guys or having guys walk on. And then, being able to continue playing at NDSU. And now it's a matter of how do you capitalize on the transfer portal and try to see if guys can come in and make an immediate impact as a veteran player with experience. Just shooting off a text here to see if we can get Wayne set up here on Zoom as we get set to talk about the Four Bears Roar here in just a couple of minutes. But in terms of the transfer portal, I mean, it's capitalize on it or be left in the dust, and then you're stuck with other players, other teams having players with tons of experience, and you being on the flip side and trying to work with a lot of guys that are freshmen or whatever it may be. But when you talk about North Dakota State, obviously they've seen so much success with their redshirt program, and you can only think about what it's going to look like for guys like Walker Broughton who have redshirted from West Hope Newburgh, and see what he looks like after redshirting and then getting a chance to play hopefully in the coming seasons. Whenever you think about that long term, I think those guys can make a huge impact. But for a team like NDSU, it's who can make an impact here and now, and the biggest way to be able to capitalize on that is through the transfer portal. Meanwhile, at UND, you're trying to think about the same things, and UND at the same time We haven't seen much in terms of coaching turnover at North Dakota State. UND, they've got to replace their offensive coordinator now. And I'm not super surprised by this because Isaac Frichte has been incredibly good at his job. I mean, UND was in the top 25 in scoring in the FCS this year. He put them on pace to contribute at a high, or be at a high level in terms of the national scene. And you think about those numbers are with playing against teams like Kansas State at the FBS level. So Isaac Frichte is going to go back to the University of Minnesota. That's where he played his college football at, and now he gets a chance to be a coach there, which is really cool. I've seen him and his wife post a couple of pictures and videos and things like that over the course of the last week or so. And it's cool to see the throwback pictures of him and the throwback videos of him. And now he gets a chance to go back to the University of Minnesota. He's not going to be the offensive coordinator there. He's going to be a position coach, but still, to get a chance to go coach at your alma mater at the FBS level and be under Coach Fleck there, I'm sure that's a great opportunity for him. And so now, if you're Eric Schmidt, you got to figure out what to do next in terms of hiring a new offensive coordinator and putting the pieces together to determine who's going to call the plays next year. And obviously, even more important when you talk about Eric Schmidt being a defensive guy, but he has no lack of resources in terms of who he's coached with, who he's coached against, and potential, other coaches that might be interested, especially when he's coached at as high of a level as he has. I'm sure there's plenty of guys that are around that are familiar with him and his ability to build the program that are going to see that and want to be a part of it. And in general, if you're somebody on the outside that's a coach that's looking at what UND's done over the past year, you couldn't blame somebody for wanting to jump in and try to be a part of that. So interested to see what UND does in that position over the course of the next, week or so. I would assume that it's going to happen pretty fast, maybe a few weeks, but interested to see what UND does in terms of replacing that. Still working to see if we can get Coach Wayne Casey on here in the next couple of minutes before we wrap things up. If not, we'll try to regroup and see if we can't get him on for next week. But another thing and just kind of jot down my news and notes list. Something that I wanted to talk about was right here at the University of Mary. So UMary women's basketball got another win over the course of the weekend. And I know we've talked about them a ton on here. We've talked about them a ton on TV, but I feel like we have to talk about, not that we have to, but I feel like we haven't even talked about them as much as we should because of how well they've played. And the reason I bring it up is because I feel like found myself this weekend being like, wow, we're kind of taking what UMary women's basketball is doing for granted, but at a bigger stage, I think we're taking advantage of what Bergen Kennebrew is doing. The former Century player is one of the top scorers in Division II right now. She's top 3 in scoring and points per game right now, points per game right now. In Division II across the entire country. And so I saw that stat this weekend, and then Ben had something about it on the air this weekend, and I was just sitting back and thinking about that and was like, wow, this is a kid who grew up in Bismarck, played her high school basketball right down the road at Century, and then stayed here to play at the University of Mary, and she's made such a massive impact that now she's, kind of blowing up on the national scale, and it's led to one of the best seasons in UMary women's basketball history and something that they're trying to build on, and that scoring is even with her missing a couple of games. So I don't know quite how that factors into the numbers and things like that, but it's exciting to see that she's made such a huge impact at this level. And I think it's even cooler because of the trajectory of what her game has been like. Whenever she was in high school, obviously covered her in high school here at Century, and she was playing alongside Logan Nisley, who's at the University of Nebraska now. And I think you knew that Bergen was really good her junior year, but you didn't really know how good she was because she was playing alongside other players that were so good. And then her senior year, she really exploded, and it was like, wow, she's going to be her own really good basketball player, separate from what Logan Nisley does. And obviously Logan is a fantastic basketball player herself, but I think for a while there, a lot of people maybe didn't understand how good Bergen could be or what she was going to be. And then she went in, she played a little bit there at the University of Mary, and then it was like, okay, we're going to expect you to take the reins, and we need you to take this thing over for us. And so she had a ton of success last year, and even after that, just talking to head coach Rick Newman about it, it was kind of clear that, like, hey, now you've got to take this thing to another level, which is going to be really hard to do because you were so good last season as a sophomore. Now you have to find a way to take the next step on the ladder, and somehow she's found a way to do that in terms of bulk scoring, distributing to her teammates. You know, Rick has said, even on those nights where she's not, you know, scoring 32 points, or this weekend she had 38 against Minot State, I think, which is just insane. You know, even in a night where she's not scoring 38 points, she's still dishing out a ton of assists. Or, you know, in terms of what Bergen has said is like, hey, you know, even if I'm taking something off of the floor where teams are worried about me, then that's going to open up my teammates for success, which has proved to be pivotal in terms of finding wins for the University of Mary women's team. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that continues throughout the season as they get closer and closer to the NSIC tournament. And then hopefully we see the Marauders make a run in the NSIC tournament and get a chance to play in the postseason once again. And I think they have a great chance to do so. They were successful against Minot State this weekend. I believe this coming week they're on the road, if I remember correctly. So they had a stretch there where they were at home for quite a while, and I think they're going to be on the road again this weekend. But Bergen's been a huge part of that. Allison Unland from Mohall has been a huge part of that, having a true center, true inside presence. I mean, they've been so good at developing post players over the past several seasons, and Allison Unland's just kind of continuing that trend with what she's been able to do. 6'3" in the paint, but she's been stepping out and shooting threes and knocking them down. So it's just been fantastic to see what this UMary women's team has been able to do and to see them continue to do it. Speaking of Century Patriot former players, though, Lauren Ware over the course of the weekend hit a huge milestone. She's playing for Texas A&M women's program. She got her 500th career rebound yesterday on Sunday in an SEC game against the University of Georgia. Texas A&M ended up losing that game against a Georgia team that has just one loss on the season. It was Texas A&M's fourth loss on the season, so they've been playing pretty well. Now they turn the page and start getting deeper into conference play, but pretty cool to see Lauren achieve that, especially after, you know, she dealt with injuries in high school, goes to college initially as a two-sport athlete, and then she has, you know, another injury issue. She ends up transferring to A&M, and to see her having success, also doing it at the highest level at A&M as a starter and being one of the leaders on that team, I just think that's super cool to see. So she reaches 500 career rebounds over the course of the weekend, which is a huge accomplishment for her, a former Century Patriot. That's another standout player that's having success in college. Quite a few of those that are doing that right now. But we appreciate you joining us today here on the Dakota Drive on this Monday afternoon. Such a cool show to have Britta Curl join us and get a chance to talk to her this morning. We'll have some more from her tonight on KFYR, so be sure to tune in there. And then cool to get a chance to catch up with Tim Meyer and get his perspective on Britta's trajectory to the point that she's at of being an Olympian. Bismarck's own Olympian, the first person ever from Bismarck, North Dakota to be an Olympian. Don't take that for granted. And it's so cool to see a person like Britta get that opportunity and get that chance. Just the 7th North Dakotan ever to be an Olympian. So she is on a very short list that deserves very, very high praise. And I think it's cool that we get a chance to talk to her about that and get a chance to relish in it. February 5th, her team will hit the ice for the very first time in preliminary play, so be sure to be tuned in on NBC throughout the course of the Winter Olympics as Britta represents Bismarck on the world's largest stage in women's hockey. We appreciate you joining us today on the Dakota Drive. We'll see you back here again next week, 2 to 3 p.m. Central, right here on KFYR+. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday afternoon and have a great rest of your week.